Hello, I'm Devika, not Paul Chong. I'm part of IBM's Watson unit, so I head up Watson Solutions for Financial Services here in the UK and Ireland. Thank you to Tiffany as well as Alison, who just happened to leave. I think we've had some good discussions around digital transformation, and it's interesting because as a topic, it's very broad. And what I'm going to do now is add a layer of complexity to it by talking about artificial intelligence and how that applies in the context of digital transformation, particularly for financial services. So when you think about artificial intelligence, how many of you kind of associate it with stock images such as these? Okay. Guilty as charged. Yeah. The BBC ran a special report on intelligent machines about 2 weeks ago. Did anyone have a look at that? No? Well, I suggest you do. It's interesting because I went through the coverage over the weekend and I was slightly puzzled by what I saw. It did a great job in further glamorizing the image of artificial intelligence or AI with dramatic introductory videos like this. I'm just going to play a snippet of it.
50 is the year we could see it, if it is even possible. It's a race worth billions. Some say it will save humanity. Others say it could destroy us. Either way, if and when it happens, the world will be changed forever.
So I think it's a dramatic soundtrack associated with it. But that was that. And then they had this interactive article, which is based on research done by Oxford University on whether a robot will take our jobs in the next 20 years. So I checked out a few. So apparently if you're a library clerk, let's see what their automation risk is. It's quite likely that they're going to be redundant and taken over by computers. I don't know if any of you want to throw up your roles out here. We can try and let's see if you guys are safe. I'm guessing everyone's in the digital space here. Let's see if there's anything to do with digital. Oh.
Try marketing director.
Yeah, marketing.
Okay, let's try marketing director. Oh. Oh, we're safe. Great. Okay, good.
Part cyborg.
So that's good. There was a silver lining to this article that if you have any of these following three capabilities, namely social intelligence, creativity, and manual dexterity, we're all safe. So we're not going to be computerized or automated. The reality is that the concept of artificial intelligence is not new. It's been around since the 1950s, when the likes of John McCarthy and Alan Turing wrote about intelligent machines being smarter than the human brain. And of course, you have media and Hollywood that have long been associated with conjuring up extreme images, where at the one end you have the utopian view of robots having a heart, like Wall-E, or someone you can fall in love with, like her. And then at the other extreme, you have the dystopian view of the killer bot that's capable of wiping out the human race, much like that article was trying to do. But if you flip the view and you flip the discussion, so while those are important discussions to have from a moral compass perspective, so the debates being done by Stephen Hawking and Elon Musk, these are all important discussions to have from a moral compass and from those sort of guidelines. If you flip the view and you flip the discussion from one of automation or computerization to one of augmentation of human expertise or augmentation of human tasks, I think that, in my opinion, it becomes a much more expansive discussion or a much more exciting discussion. So we like to believe that, at least at IBM, we developed Watson from that perspective to really enhance scale and accelerate human expertise. So you can think of Watson kind of like a coach or a concierge or an advisor to human experts in their domain. And why that is important? Well, I'll go back to something that Tiffany touched on briefly, data. If you think about the amount of data that exists in the world out there, about 4.7 quintillion bytes of data are created every single day. So that's equivalent to about 340 newspapers being delivered to every man, woman, and child. So what's the probability that if I asked any of you a question in one of those papers, you'd be able to answer it with somewhat accuracy? The chances are quite low. To emphasize the data point, I'm going to highlight 3 scenarios. The first one, in the healthcare field, medical data doubles every 5 years. So if I pick just one small area in the medical space, research that's done on the p53 protein, which is a which is a protein that suppresses cancer genes. On this protein alone, 70,000 papers have been written on this. So it would take a doctor, even if he read an average of 5 papers a day, almost 38 years to get through all that data. So how can AI add value there? Second scenario, if you think of financial services, which is why everyone's here today, Generation X and Y constituted about 36% share of the financial assets in 2010, and they will account for 70% share of financial assets in 2030. Text and digital media is a main form of communication for them and for a lot of us in the room. So how will banks make use of virtual advisors and virtual assistants to best communicate with these customers and capture that revenue? And then a third scenario, which is something more relatable, in the area of travel. So the average traveler spans across 38 websites before actually making a booking. So what if you had an AI system that could actually learn from your preferences and learn from your history and recommend what you need? That could be a trip to Como, or that could be the Burning Man Festival, whatever it might be. So if you extrapolate from these 3 scenarios to the various other fields that exist and various other industries that exist, you begin to realize that AI can actually, or artificial intelligence, we like to call it cognitive computing, can add tremendous value in solving real-world problems. So from that perspective, we see it more as a partnership between man and machine than a versus or an automation debate. Because there are certain things that machines will always be good at, and there are certain things that humans can do that machines can't do, and there are pros and cons to both. At IBM, we developed, I don't know, how many of you are familiar with Watson? Okay, great. At IBM, Watson was a result of one of our research efforts, this one focused on AI. We previously developed Deep Blue, not sure if you're familiar with that. That was the chess-playing computer that beat Garry Kasparov, the world chess champion, in the grandest game of strategy. This was in 1996. Then about 10 years later, in 2007, we took on the Jeopardy challenge. Has anyone heard of Jeopardy out here? Okay, so it's a peculiar US game show that's usually played at the back of the cabs. At least that's when I saw it. Peculiar in the sense that it's trivia, and that itself is hard. But you're presented with the answers first, and then the respondents have to respond back in the format of a question. So we took on the challenge with Watson, and we went live in front of the world in 2011, and were able to beat the world champions Ken and Brad. I'm going to show a quick video of that, which will give you a sense of cognitive computing as well.
Here are today's contestants. From Los Angeles, California, Brad Rudder. An IBM computer system able to rapidly understand and analyze natural language, Watson. And from Seattle, Washington, Ken Jennings.
Watson, back to you.
Dialing for dialects for 800.
While Maltese borrows many words from Italian, it developed from a dialect of this Semitic language. Watson.
What is Arabic?
You are right.
1000, same category.
Aeolic, spoken in ancient times, was a dialect of this. Watson.
What is ancient Greek?
Yes.
Breaking news for 800.
Gambler Charles Wells is believed to have inspired the song "The Man Who Did This at Monte Carlo." Watson.
What is broke the bank?
You got it.
Same category, 1000.
Nearly 10 million YouTubers saw Dave Carroll's clip called "This Friendly Skies Airline Breaks Guitars." Watson.
What is United Airlines?
Yes.
$1 or less for 800.
99 cents got me a 4-pack of Interlig coasters from this Swedish chain. Brad.
What is IKEA?
Yes.
Okay, it got the last question wrong. But if you saw the end of the video, it did have the right answer. It knew it was IKEA, but didn't have the confidence threshold to press the buzzer. So the confidence threshold was set at 70% for the purposes of the show. Anyway, regardless, we went on to win Jeopardy. And in order for Watson to actually prepare for Jeopardy, it read 200 million pages, including all Wikipedia content, so that it could answer to a question in less than 3 seconds, which is quite amazing. So this was a defining moment, not just, I think, for IBM, but for the lack of a better word, it was a defining moment for humanity, if you can think of the parallels to which such a technology can be applied to. The first one for us was in the healthcare space. So we tied up with the Memorial Sloan Kettering Center, which focuses on oncology, where we trained Watson. It once again read about 30 million documents, 300 textbooks, and 20 years of patient medical history, or EMR, in order for Watson to now be in a position to act as an advisor for doctors so that it can help the doctor diagnose patients' cancer better and come up with more individualized treatment plans. From there, we've tied up not just in the oncology space, but in medicine, health, and well-being. Our first partner in the financial services space was with a Singaporean bank called DBS in their wealth management unit. And here we trained Watson, much like we did with the Memorial Sloan Kettering Center, to act as an advisor. So to act as an advisor for the wealth manager so that they can service their end consumers more effectively. Well, once again, this involves staying on top of a lot of data. So you can imagine the amount of use cases that can be applied just in the wealth management space, let alone other areas of financial services. So we formally launched Watson as a separate business unit at IBM in 2014, at the start of 2014. And I think an important differentiation in our proposition this time is that we also have the Watson ecosystem, which is our open platform for developers, end users, any of us really in the room, to go out and test out and use some of our cognitive APIs and see what you can do with it. So apart from just kind of partnering with traditional clients, we're really seeing clients of all shapes and sizes using some of our technology. So for example, we have Cognitoy, which is a talking dinosaur that is helping to interact with kids and helping them learn, and even reporting some sort of feedback loop to teachers. And then you also have at the other extreme something like Social Bro, which is actually a UK based startup. You've heard of Social Bro? Yeah. And they're using some of our cognitive APIs in the personality insights field, as well as analyzing tone, something that Tiffany actually touched upon, to generate more effective Twitter marketing campaigns for their clients. So technology has hugely evolved. It's gone from Watson just being able to read to Watson being able to actually listen, to talk, so that's text to speech, speech to text, to being able to sense or understand what the context is of the situation, to being able to understand personality, and to being able to understand tone. So it's really quite exciting. We have over 26 cognitive APIs that are ready to use in beta and GA on our Watson Developer Cloud for you or the architects on your team to kind of play around with. So it's an exciting proposition. I just realized as I was talking, I never kind of defined what Watson does, apart from what you saw on Jeopardy. So Watson does 3 things really well, apart from other things we like to believe. One, it has the ability to understand and communicate in natural language. And why that's important is because when I mentioned 4.7 quintillion bytes of data created every single day, 80% of that data is unstructured. And what that means is unstructured is in natural language in the form of text, digital content, social media content, whatever that might be. So first, it has the ability to understand and communicate in natural language through sophisticated natural language processing techniques and machine learning techniques. The second is it has the ability to process and analyze masses of structured and unstructured data so that it can come up with reasonable hypotheses and answers with evidence levels, like you saw in the Jeopardy video. And thirdly, you can think of Watson when you first kind of bring it to your organization or to your proposition as a child. So just as a child gets smarter over time, so does Watson. It gets smarter with each interaction with its domain expertise or whoever's training Watson, which is the whole cognitive element around Watson, or augmented intelligence or artificial intelligence around Watson. The financial services has been a key industry for us apart from healthcare. It's probably the second largest focus for us. Today we're active in about 17 industries across 6 continents. Watson speaks English best, but it's learning other languages slowly. In the context of financial services, which is where we can draw light on why we're here today, you can think of different applications which you might already be thinking of. If you focus on these 5 patterns, so Watson enables, at least at present, these basic 5 patterns of engagement, discovery, decision, policy, and exploration. I'm going to pick a few and then share a few scenarios of what that might look like in the financial services space so you can wrap your heads around it. So if I pick the first one, engagement. So that's really your direct-to-consumer proposition. So that's how Watson, or not just Watson, any cognitive computing system or any AI system can transform the front end of customer engagement. So how you can use such a system to deepen customer relationships. So for example, what if you have a virtual assistant installed in your mobile banking app that can solve some very basic issues such as, help, I've lost my debit card, to instead of you having to troll through the website, figure out where it is, or you call the contact center and wait for a long time, or even having to rock up to a branch, to something more complex like helping you sign up for your mortgage as a first-time buyer, or even a remortgage, to something even more complex as a virtual assistant helping to advise you on your investment decisions or your investment portfolio. These are the kind of applications that we're seeing and that we're actively working on with our clients in the financial services space. And some of which is very, very exciting. The last one being the whole buzzword around robo-advisor that some of you might be familiar with. If I pick another area, let's say of policy, because policy is, of course, regulatory pressures is a huge challenge for this industry, and about $260 billion is spent globally on risk and compliance. It costs some odd amount of $250,000 just to implement a single change in a regulation. So a scenario for this is, what if you have an artificially intelligent system that can monitor changes in your regulations in order to ensure internal compliance? Again, an active use case that we're working on with clients. If I pick one more area, just one last one, decision. Decision is how you can think of an artificially intelligent system or a cognitive computing engine, much like Watson, to act as an advisor for a financial services professional. Kind of like the example I gave you for DBS as a wealth management advisor. But taking a step further, I'm going to show some of the art of the possible with what we're doing in this space of Watson playing the role of an M&A advisor, which is quite exciting.
112 companies.
Now we're getting a lot in here. And we can see we're...
Watson, I need help with acquisitions.
Hello. How can I help you with mergers and acquisitions?
Watson, show me companies with revenue between $25 million and $60 million pertaining to analytics.
Let's see what I can find. I found 87 companies.
Nice.
Okay, so that's a good start. What do you think, Brian?
But I was doing some homework, actually. I think we should pull in that Watson Strategy Group document. There's a lot of key concepts in there. Let's feed it to Watson.
All right. Watson, please regard this as cognitive strategy.
Watson, show me companies with revenue between $15 million and $60 million pertaining to cognitive strategy.
Let's see what I can find.
Yeah, this is nice.
I found 112 companies.
Now we're getting a lot in here. And we can see we're getting some connections to it.
Watson, show me companies that are about analytics and cognitive strategy that are most similar to the companies named Wolfram Alpha and Kawasaki Robotics.
I found 3 companies similar to the ones you specified.
Beautiful.
Well, let's see what we think of these.
Dive a little deeper. Let's compare these things.
Sure. Watson, show me a decision table.
Here is a decision table that will enable you to compare companies side by side.
Watson, place the companies named Wolfram Alpha and Kawasaki Robotics and Cognalytics and Raytheon BBN Technologies and Decisive Analytics in the decision table.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay, but I think we need a little more than that. We need some other attributes. Watson, place the attributes named revenue and employees and corporate structure in the decision table.
Okay.
All right. So now we've got this side-by-side comparison. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Watson, give me a suggestion.
I have a suggestion.
What do you think?
Can I have one?
So, I mean, this is still in our research labs, but it kind of demonstrates quite well, I think, the art of the possible with how you can apply AI systems in not just financial services, but in other areas as well. We've also done some other, sorry, this was before I go on to the next one. I think the point I wanted to make out here is that I think everyone is well aware that there's a lot of disruption that's happening in the financial services space, as well as disintermediation with the likes, I mean, across in the lending space, in the payment space, in the insurance space. And I guess if you think of AI, it's just one other aspect of the whole disruption. And I think increasingly we are seeing our clients understand that it's not about tomorrow, but they need to start actively thinking about how they can apply AI, not just data analytics, but AI to their different propositions, including digital propositions today. On a side note, we recently partnered with TED, where Watson actually viewed a lot of the TED videos in order so that if you go on and ask a question, it can recommend from the library of TED videos which are the relevant video clips pertinent to your question. And similarly, if you kind of wanted to recommend you TED Talk videos based on your personality, you can just put in your Twitter handle and it'll give you recommendations of what videos you should be watching. So if you, I don't know, how are we doing on time? Not bad? Okay. So we can actually try it here. Does anyone want to volunteer their Twitter handle?
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good one.
At Tiffany St. James.
Okay.
TIFFAMY ST James.
Okay. Let's see
Oh dear.
what Watson has to say. Live. It's thinking hard. Just takes a couple of seconds. Let's see. Before we do that, the more exciting bit is your personality. Okay, so tell me if this is right. You are analytical, rational, and can be perceived as insensitive.
My co-founder Charlie would say so.
You are adventurous, I think we could tell that, driven. You are mild-tempered. You consider achieving, experiences that give a sense of sophistication hold some appeal to you.
Including martinis.
Oh, lovely. You consider achieving success to guide a large part of what you do. Fair. What about the last one? You're relatively unconcerned with taking pleasure in life.
That's for Facebook, not Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
Work on Twitter.
No, you're so right. And I guess it would show up a different profile. We don't have it for Facebook as yet, but it would probably show up a different profile for that. But that's very helpful. Thank you for volunteering that.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And we also have video recommendations for you. Let's see if those are somewhat relevant to what you may or may not like.
So this is live now, is it?
Yeah, it's live. So watson.ted.com. So it'll show you the relevant clips, perhaps and analyzing your Twitter profile, on what are videos that you might like to watch. I will send this to you.
Thank you.
In the early 19th century, it was an
Beth
open
Novak.
house. Neighbors came and went.
She was my counterpart in the US government.
Ah, did you mention her recently on a Twitter?
I didn't think so.
Oh, so that's okay. So that's our Watson TED demo. You can check it out for yourselves. But it's quite exciting because just to tell you that the technology has evolved so much. So now it's listening to videos and it's being able to analyze personality. So you can almost see as to how it can apply in some of the digital propositions around social media campaigns being the most important one, or being the biggest one that kind of jumps to mind right now. We're already using it in some contexts to kind of respond to emails coming from customers so that you can understand tone as well as personality and respond to them appropriately. So we as humans do that naturally, but imagine if you can replace a subsection of it by virtual agents and virtual assistants, particularly for routine tasks or routine queries that come in. So that's kind of the art of the possible. And it's actually not just the art of the possible. It is possible because we're actively working on it with clients in the financial services space. So this is kind of what I spoke about. Artificial intelligence as augmented intelligence. So more as a partnership between man and machine, and more of an augmentation debate versus an automation one. A bit about Watson, or a lot about Watson. Then lastly, I think what I'd like to conclude with is that AI is very much a part of the digital transformation story. We like to think of it as sitting at the pinnacle of the data analytics piece, which is very much a part of the digital transformation journey as well. But just like digital, AI is also very broad. So how it gets applied in the context of financial services really depends on the use case at hand, and how that particular business area can be disrupted by cognitive, and what's the associated economics and value that it brings with it. But ultimately what we're seeing is that more than just, you can easily say we're doing digital transformation or we're applying AI and we're doing all the art of the possible. We found that it's more than just having titles, designations, and roles in the organization. It's really about a few people or just one person having the vision to do a lot of this and bringing others along on that vision. So I'd like to end on that note. Thank you.